Sitcoms are meant to be television's comfort food. They welcome viewers into familiar living rooms, offices, and coffee shops, week after week, creating the illusion that the people on screen are just as warm, funny, and lovable in real life. Over time, audiences form emotional bonds with these characters, often blurring the line between fiction and reality. But behind the canned laughter, the bright studio lights, and the perfectly timed jokes, the working environment on many sitcoms was far more tense than fans ever imagined. In some cases, the very actors who made millions laugh developed reputations that shocked co-stars, exhausted crews, and ultimately damaged their own legacies. One of the most infamous examples is Chevy Chase, a man once regarded as comedy royalty. Chase's quick wit and sarcastic charm made him a breakout star, but that same sarcasm reportedly became poisonous behind the scenes. Across multiple productions, writers and cast members described him as arrogant, dismissive, and openly disrespectful, often belittling those he felt were beneath him. His time on Community became the final confirmation of a reputation that had followed him for decades, with repeated clashes, offensive remarks, and an unwillingness to collaborate turning the set into a battleground. What made Chase's behavior especially damaging was the sense that he believed his past success excused his present conduct. Over time, his talent became secondary to his attitude, and instead of being remembered solely as a comedy legend, he became a cautionary tale about ego unchecked by humility. A similar rise and collapse story unfolded with Sheen, whose success on 2.5 Men made him one of the most powerful figures in television. At his peak, Sheen was earning unprecedented salaries and delivering massive ratings, but behind the scenes, his behavior reportedly grew more erratic and unmanageable. Substance abuse, missed rehearsals, public insults aimed at producers, and explosive outbursts created an atmosphere of constant uncertainty. What shocked many in Hollywood wasn't just the chaos itself, but how long it was tolerated due to the show's success. Eventually, even record-breaking ratings couldn't justify the disruption, and Sheen's firing became one of the most public implosions in sitcom history. His story illustrates how fame can temporarily protect bad behavior, but never permanently. Long before social media amplified celebrity controversies, Roseanne Barr was already known in industry circles for being extremely difficult to work with. During the original run of Roseanne, multiple writers and crew members described a hostile and unpredictable environment driven by her temper and need for control. Barr reportedly demanded creative dominance, clashed frequently with staff, and created tension that made collaboration exhausting. While her talent and influence were undeniable, her inability to maintain a stable working atmosphere planted the seeds for later controversies. When her career faced renewed collapse years later, many insiders were not surprised, viewing it not as an isolated incident but as the continuation of long-standing patterns. In stark contrast to his slick, controlled on-screen persona, Alec Baldwin became widely known for off-screen anger issues that repeatedly made headlines. On 30 Rock, Baldwin delivered a performance praised for its sharp timing and self-aware humor, but outside the studio, reports of explosive confrontations and verbal outbursts painted a far less polished picture. While some co-workers defended his professionalism on set, his public behavior often overshadowed his work, reinforcing the perception that his temper was not merely an act. Baldwin's case highlights how an actor can be both highly talented and deeply volatile at the same time, with the latter eventually threatening to eclipse the former. Early fame also proved overwhelming for Shannon Doherty, whose career was repeatedly disrupted by reports of conflict and confrontation. During Beverly Hills 90210, tensions between Doherty and her co-stars reportedly escalated to the point where producers felt forced to choose between maintaining harmony and retaining a popular star. She was often labeled uncooperative and combative, a reputation that followed her across projects and limited future opportunities. In later years, Doherty openly reflected on her younger self, acknowledging that fame and immaturity played a role in her behavior, but by then, the damage to her reputation had already been done. Her story shows how early success, when combined with a lack of support or self-awareness, can quickly turn into a career obstacle. Rounding out the first half is Thomas Gibson, whose abrupt firing from Criminal Minds stunned audiences but was reportedly the culmination of long-standing issues. While Gibson portrayed a calm, authoritative figure on screen, behind the scenes he was accused of aggressive behavior and repeated altercations with crew members. According to insiders, concerns about workplace safety and professionalism had been raised multiple times before producers finally decided enough was enough. His dismissal served as a powerful reminder that longevity on a show does not guarantee immunity, and that even well-established stars can be removed when patterns of behavior cross a line. While some sitcom scandals explode in public meltdowns and headline-making firings, others unfold slowly, quietly poisoning sets, relationships, and careers over time. One of the clearest examples of how reputation alone can derail a career is Katherine Heigl. At her peak, Heigl had everything Hollywood values: talent, popularity, awards buzz, and mainstream appeal. But her relationship with the industry began to sour when she openly criticized her own work, including declining Emmy consideration and publicly expressing dissatisfaction with scripts. While fans often praised her honesty, Hollywood operates on diplomacy, and insiders reportedly viewed her comments as disrespectful to writers and producers who had elevated her career. Over time, she developed a reputation for being hard to please and difficult to satisfy creatively. That perception mattered more than the truth. Studios became hesitant, casting offers slowed, and Heigl's name quietly slipped from A-list conversations. Her story became a cautionary tale. In sitcom culture, criticism, even justified, can be seen as betrayal. Then there's Topher Grace, whose situation proves that you don't have to be loud, angry, or abusive to be labeled a problem. On that 70s show, Grace was reportedly distant and disengaged from the rest of the cast. While no one accused him of cruelty, his reserved personality clashed with the ensemble's social dynamic. Hollywood sitcoms thrive on chemistry not just on screen, but off it, and Grace's tendency to keep to himself was interpreted by some as arrogance or disinterest. As the rest of the cast bonded, his separation became more noticeable, fueling rumors of tension. In an industry that often demands performative friendliness, Grace's introversion worked against him. His case highlights an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes, being different is enough to be disliked. A much sharper contrast between public image and private reputation surrounds James Corden. On screen, Corden built his brand around warmth, positivity, and relatability. He played the role of the lovable everyman perfectly. Off-screen, however, story after story began to circulate describing behavior that was anything but kind. Restaurant staff, crew members, and industry insiders independently described encounters involving entitlement, dismissiveness, and rudeness. What made these accounts especially damaging was their consistency. There was no single explosive scandal, just a growing pile of similar experiences shared by people with nothing to gain. Over time, the gap between Corden's cheerful persona and these reports became impossible to ignore. For many, the disappointment wasn't just about bad behavior, it was about feeling misled. Few careers illustrate long-term self-destruction more clearly than that of Andy Dick. Early in his career, Dick's chaotic energy was seen as edgy and unpredictable in a way that fits certain comedy spaces. But unpredictability quickly turned into unreliability. Reports of inappropriate behavior, substance abuse, and boundary crossing piled up over the years, alienating colleagues and making sets feel unsafe. Unlike others on this list, Dick was given multiple chances, more than most. Each time, the same patterns returned. Eventually, his reputation became so toxic that talent and connections no longer mattered. His fall wasn't sudden, it was gradual and entirely preventable, making it one of the most tragic examples of squandered opportunity in sitcom history.